Good afternoon or good morning, and to all the CPTM and SMART partners in the movement, in the Caribbean, in Africa, Southern, Eastern Africa, in the Mediterranean, in UK, in Canada, and probably it will be recorded by now in Malaysia, but our chairman Omar and Dato Chu are with us, so they are awake, widely awake. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the CPTM SMART Partners Hub for a special live webcast and about CPTM future directions. An understanding and a feel that the CPTM SMART Partnership movement and all the SMART partners engaged into it are actually moving on since Dar es Salaam 2013 in a quite distinct way. Now, why is it a live webcast, not as different from a dead one? But you know, we don't refer to a dead webcast, we refer to webcasts which are recorded usually, rather than being live. Reason why we chose that is because of exactly one of the reasons why we look at future directions, because most of the situations that SMART partners, that the heads of government otherwise, are dealing with, and they bring to the CPTM SMART partnership framework, are actually real time. And more, the real time situation as it happens, not as it happened, are the kind of situation that SMART partnership movement is engaged in. And that is possible not only because of the technology, which is particularly one issue that of a future direction to be looked into, but also because of the ability of everybody to know at any point of time, if they want to, everything. And the question was, which in the morning we discussed in one or another with the very special presence that we have from today until Monday at the Hub, was that the usual type of reading tips which are relevant to various things. But Tashi Omar, our chairman, is chairman of the CPTM Endowment Fund also. He's also CPTM fellow, and above all, he is one of the best experienced science advisor, but within a government which kind of developed very rapidly and everybody was trying to emulate. So we have Dr. George Christodoulides from Cyprus, again Cyprus, Mediterranean, and in between Europe and Africa, but part of Commonwealth, very much leading in the past and continually even today the movement on standards in Cyprus, among many other things. And we have Dr. Andrew Tausig, who is leading the SMART Partners links on media. So the future of journalism is very much and communication very much a part of the core of SMART partnership movement. We have Mr. Ekoma Motibasela, who's kind of one of the leading civil servants, top civil servants in one of the most successful countries in Southern Africa. So when one looks at why nations fail or how nations succeed, you look at Botswana. And of course, part of that is the civil service who served leaders, including the Vision 2016, which was launched. And we have Dato Chu, who has a most excellent experience in foreign affairs, multilateral, from Malaysia, from UN, and of course being the first High Commissioner accredited or ambassador to South Africa when President Mandela came in, and lately being in business. So we have quite presence of those that are going to reflect for you, with you, or to ignite your interest on CPT and future directions in the current context. Omar, you want to start?
We have just actually started brainstorming on future direction. I am still not sure whether future direction means new direction or is an adjustment of our direction. I am thinking about if you send a rocket to go to Mars, I don't think halfway through they want to change direction to go to another planet. But they may need to from control center. We are still at that stage now to see, do we still deliver the thing that we want to deliver in the right way? Because of changing circumstances, because of changing technology, because of changing perception, and also because many countries have changed since we started. They are at a different phase than when we began 20 years ago. So this is as far as I am concerned at this stage. It so happened that on the way over, I was reading, there was an article about America rethinking its foreign policy direction. And there were three scenarios, just to give you a kind of example. One, America as an indispensable power. Number two, America as a dollar ruler. And number three, America as a new independent country. In other words, America not being bound down to wanting to be the world policeman, to go everywhere to talk about human rights and whatever, but to look at America as an independent country, looking at the interests of America without carrying the baggage of the rest of the world. That's what they're discussing. So just by the way, even a big country like US is really looking at the direction, at least in foreign affairs. So as I said, for me, we are just at the beginning of this looking at future direction of CPTM. But when you look at that, there are various aspects. Naila has already spelled it out. It's about vision and mission. It's about activities. It's about financing to support those activities. And of course, one of the activities is dialogue. And so we are still just at the beginning, and we'll continue to discuss this. So feedback from all of you out there on what you feel will be useful for us. We are going to be dealing with this tomorrow and on Sunday. So we are here to work during the. It's a pity because it's bright sunshine out there. We should be out there too. You don't see London with this kind of weather very often, but we are here. We are being driven by the slave driver to work tomorrow and on Sunday as well.
But this is only the part one, isn't it, Omar,
yeah,
of these discussions, so to speak? Because while we receive feedback and have engagements all over the movement, there will be a continuation very quickly at the hub on around 2nd of July, and then there will be a continuation of looking to try to adapt to the future directions or new directions. So as we can see, Smart Partners Art Link on this smart wall, they put a spiral and they put all those people in that's the impression that they put. So the spiral moves on, and it moves on all over the Commonwealth and beyond. And the CPTM hub is simply growing in its responsibility in relation to this the movement. So that's what it is, actually. George.
We are celebrating 20 years since CPTM was established, for 30 years since the whole movement started. But we are also at a stage where we have to look into the future, not because of these two critical dates or situations, but we have to make sure that we can do things better than what we have been doing up to now. We have to be more effective and we have to be more efficient and to have the means to service ourselves, and the services that we are offering to the Commonwealth could be maintained, and how to design appropriate activities and services that would be matched by the income that we could secure.
Okay. Andrew, yeah.
Okay, well, Mihaela spoke about the changes, and Omar also spoke about reassessing things. And I think one could look at it in terms of both the what themes we cover and also the how. I mean, the what is what's changed in the past 20 years. We've had 9/11, the world economic crisis, the Arab Spring, which actually a number of people have sprung traps on the Arab Spring. So it didn't quite turn out as people thought. We have issues around religion, culture, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and so on. And as to the how, I mean, this is something which I think in the movement we take quite a pride in, that we actually feel we give each other some kind of inspiration in the way that we make contacts, both within ourselves and within the outside world. And this is a very important matter. Mihaela referred to the new digital environment that we have, which gives us huge opportunities, but also huge threats. And if you compare the kind of connectedness of the digital world with the connectedness of, for example, the old television world, is connectedness the same as a sense of community? Are we missing something in the way that we connect simply by the fact that there is a potential connection? These are all big issues, and ones which we, as a communicating movement, have to face if we're to make the best of the new technologies and the new environment that we're in order to project the interests and inspire the interests and assist the interests across a whole range of different cultures.
Yes,
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting what Andrew said, and I just want to expand a little bit. We heard from Mihaela earlier on today about the kind of feedback very recently that the staff in the hub has been collecting important feedbacks from smart partners on the ground about areas of interest. We take that to mean, the latest areas that would be meaningful for them that CPTM can deliver. We need to look at what the ground is telling us as to remain relevant. And I think together with the in-depth look that we are undertaking into our financial position, how best, like George said, to trim our program, adjust our setup and the staff strength, how to spend our money more efficiently. Also earlier on, our chairman was talking about how not to spoil some of the offshoots that have grown up around specific interest areas like the banks, grouping and all that. Groups and constituencies that are pretty rich by themselves should be thinking about how to self-finance their activity. So those are the interesting new directions that I think we are trying to apply our minds to, and it is all for the good of the future. But all these must be put together and understood in a cohesive whole, so that I think the smart partnership Partnership movement will continue to attract the support that it has seen in the last 20 years.
Yes, really almost everything has been done. Just to add on to what my colleagues have said, it is just that Dr. Omar was saying, you know, every organization in every country, there has to be a time when it has to reassess its strengths, weaknesses, and to gauge what impact it's making. As an organization, we realize that countries are changing. The countries that we've been dealing with 10 years, 15 years ago are no more the same countries that were 10, 15 years ago. So the organization also, the service that we provide also has to reflect that so that we remain relevant as we've been. So basically that's really what we're trying to do.
Everyone has.
I suppose I apologize, Omar, and I apologize that I had to take a call, but this is exactly what I was mentioning at the beginning of this live webcast, that we're dealing with things as they happen. And one of the things that quite a number of the movement knows, J&J Executive Group members know, and CPTM members, is that the chairman of the Smart Partnership Movement, His Excellency President Museveni, together with the co-chair, President Kikwete of Tanzania, and to they are determined that they find a way to meet, to have a CPTM Fellows discussion about the next venue and date, Smart Partnership International Dialogue in Africa, and which could be even this year. It may not be as big as usually is, but could be. That's on their agenda. Of course, to meet urgently to discuss about their Fellows Endowment Fund initiative, which, because of the lack of dialogue being deferred, they had no chance to understand what is taking place with a fund which supports the operational cost of the hub, which in itself supports the Smart Partnership Movement. So there is a meeting that is being planned. It was a meeting planned on the margin of the extraordinary meeting in SADC, in Harare. Then there is another potential attempt to take a meeting to take place among themselves on Saturday afternoon. Those who are going to African Union, or they are already accredited, they've been alerted as being part of the delegation of CPTM Fellows and Founders. So that could take place on Saturday afternoon in Santon. So one needs to ensure that the heads of government fellows are being briefed. So next Saturday before African Union on 13th of June. So the call that took place just a bit before, we started a webcast. I apologize, we started 5 minutes later. And just now during the webcast, the calls came from various JG members from Harare, from Seychelles, from Uganda. They are trying to organize and support the heads of government to do so. But I thought that I will try to also mention again that about 10 days ago there was a call for all the Smart Partners and CPTM members and so on to try to update themselves and to share with the other colleagues in the movement the kind of concerns that they are dealing with right now, concerns which could be dealt with through smart partnership practice or wisdom in various very specific areas like visions, quality inclusion, central bank governance, financial inclusion, technology, science advice, and all the rest of it. So do please try to kind of send a feedback so that that will fit into these future directions. One of the things that CPTM and Smart Partnership Movement has above many others, maybe unique features, is that while an organization, as any organization, is actually rigid and cannot evolve unless you close it down and you kind of restart it in a different form as an organization. CPTM became CPTM by changing itself, the network, the flexibility of that approach, and adapting from one type to another, building up on previous stages. So CPTM, while it was in 1995, agreed by heads of government that will follow the company house rules as a company limited by guarantee. It had already built an open smart partnership movement which allowed the attention to be given more to this open. CPTM Limited in that sense did not have an impact simply because it had to follow organizational rules. What it did follow, and it was very helpful, was the Commonwealth spirit of all the countries that are part of it, and the principle of limitless in smart partnership movement. And that allows a sustainability and also an adaptability, which otherwise, if you were to be an organization only, you wouldn't be able to actually build up. You have to close it down and all the rest of it. So that's something that has been mentioned as one of the great features which you contribute your part of. I was part of today's kind of reading tips, trying to alert you to, which is relevant, but I want to put it to yourself, to the, for instance, international events such as the Paris, in November, Paris big event on climate change. Yet another trial to try to get some consensus and some logic and some urgency behind the climate change. So Nicolas Stern, who is a well-known economist and quite a number of years ago, not too many, but attempted to put some logic behind which governments all over the world, developing and otherwise, would support and implement climate change issues. He just published, just before Paris, a new kind of book, but it's called Why Are We Waiting? And the logic, urgency, and the promise of tackling climate change. Now, the reason why I bring it in is not only because each and every country has to deal with that and has to have a presence, or will have a presence in Paris, but it's because the only reason why the climate change issues did not pick up is because of the lack of this smart partnership type of cooperative framework, which would allow everybody to balance its own interests in a positive way rather than unbalanced, and be it with technology or otherwise. So I don't know what you think, Omar, because you kind of dealing with science in Malaysia for so many years, and what do you think the international cooperation, kind of where it to be put on the footing of a smart partnership in relation to science for climate change. How would that be possible?
Okay.
And what do you think we can do from the movement?
I have said many times, and I have written, and it is in some of our documents, to say that the smart partnership concept is applicable at least in 3 specific instances. Firstly, at the national level, to promote national cohesion, to promote economic development, to promote socio-economic transformation. So the smart partnership values can bring people together to agree on the kind of thing that you need to do in order to make that happen. There are countries where nation building is still needed a lot of things to be done, where there are still a lot of polarization within the country, different interest groups. So these people have got to be brought together and to appreciate the smart partnership values. So application 1 is at the national level in terms of national cohesion, as in socio-economic transformation, science and technology development, and so on and so forth.
Including climate change.
Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, application of smart partnership in business within the country, among various players, between regions and internationally. Companies must come together to work for a common, for an equitable win-win, and no big brother to come in and take advantage of whatever you have. This is smart partnership for wealth creation at the national, regional, and international level. And the other part is smart partnership application in terms of national or in terms of global issues. Sustainability, global warming is an international global issues. And there are so many interested, so many different views based on what each country's interest is. Just like globalization. So when they come to that, you have to bring all this. You have to bring the stakeholders together to see that whatever you decide is not going to be disadvantage for the other. So global warming, sustainability, even the concept of globalization has got to be within the smart partnership concept. So 3 applications. You can break that down into smaller things. But the smart partnership idea itself has got 2 components. One is the values. And we talk about the 10 components which is in the limitless opportunities. The value of the value system within smart partnership. But the second one, the way we engage to disseminate the values and to look at differences to bring everybody together. This is the smart engagement which I talk about. So smart partnership has got values and has got the smart partnership engagement, which we mustn't forget. You cannot do this without following the smart partnership engagement. And the smart partnership engagement is to bring people together so that everyone has an opportunity to say what they want to say, openly, frankly, without fear or favor, but with an open mind to come up to a conclusion that how do we synergize our communities? What are the differences we have to recognize, to respect, and to make room for? So this is where give and take, the eventual outcome is win-win. So 3 application and two components: values plus the smart engagement system, and then the 3 application. So some of this, I'm in Malaysia trying to bring back the national cohesion thing, because there's a lot of polarization in Malaysia at the moment, various things. So part of the thing is to see whether we can revive the smart partnership at the national engagement at the national level, to see whether we we can be more sensible about promoting our area of interest. It's not just only our way and not respecting other people's way. So that's how this is an international issue, so it's applicable at the international level, and this is where science diplomacy also comes in. Because science diplomacy is about cooperation, and it's about something to compromise. It is not just something that you can do together, but how do you compromise so that you get the final objective that you want.
Actually, Omar, you are part of this new group of science advisors in New Zealand, where the science and diplomacy was brought in. And there were very few science advisors, and also one from the emerging economies. And when you talk about science diplomacy, unless you have diplomacy among people with different interests, different levels, then what sort of diplomacy is? It's not diplomacy, it's just one way. So anyway, but this is a different thing. But if we go back to this ability of hope that Paris is going to sort out finally or make a progress on climate change, one of the thinking, not only of Nicholas Stern, but many others, is that one of the positive ones is that what it will help are the technology development. There are new technologies that are going to be able to intervene in the various aspects of climate change. But what is not being dealt with is with this smart engagement. So what I think, and what quite a number of people think, we were with David Fisk the other day, was we think is that unless there is this smart engagement, which allows people to interact, but allows people to see the whole system, how it evolves. So it's not enough to say, well, you need to look at a holistic. You need to understand what that means to be part of that system. You need to understand how that system dynamics, and it be part of it, to move it around, backwards and forwards and upwards. So if you don't understand the systems approach, and we were actually exploring even in December with some of the best schools of complexity, yeah? And we're a little bit kind of disappointed because, again, just using the best and avant-garde complexity models, which make things work according to them, that's not enough. Unless there is smart engagement and people understand what are these complexity models, then that, again, they are frustrated academics who require evidence and data, but not data to fit into their models. They require people engaged, because they are the people who provide data. So anyway, there is a very interesting debate on that.
Yeah, I'd just like to pick up, Hannah has her reading tips. And sometimes we tease her that, it's creating quite a lot of newspaper using quite many trees have gone with these reading tips. But
you don't need to print them out. You can just click, and that's all.
But it's a symbol for the continuity of the search for knowledge. We can't have a dialogue every week, or even just get together every week, but ideas are developing all the time, whether on the printed page, or through the internet, or whatever. So the spirit of the reading tips, even if you don't read every single one, is that the intellectual engagement, the emotional engagement is going on all the time, and that's kind of a symbol of the Smart Partnership Movement as a family. We are not working in bursts and starts, we're actually working as a continuity, as a family, which is very, very important. So when we often say, we are together, so you who are hopefully watching this webcast are with us in this room in a very real sense, and next time I might be out there and someone is here who is now out there. That's the first point. The second point comes from my journalistic experience in the BBC, where we had to give, through the specialist correspondence, a fair representation of where an intellectual debate of the kind that Omar was talking about is. And the question often arose, do you give equal weight to two positions, say on climate change, or do you say, no, that is not balanced, because if 95% is on one side and 5% is on the other side, you know, and then you get arguments about minorities and majorities. So the search for honest and effective communication on scientific issues, or indeed any issue, is a highly complex matter on which there are no definite answers. Just finally, as I was speaking, find us to go back to, Mihaela was earlier talking about the fellows, heads of state and government, and so on. I think sometimes we take, in the frustrations of dealing with busy timetables and the difficulty of setting up events, we sometimes forget what a unique mix of participants the Smart Partnership Movement has created, to define it in terms of either governmental, civil society, professional, whatever. We have all those ingredients. We have the best academics, diplomats, scientists, business people, trade unionists indeed, but we are neither, we're not any single one of those. We are actually a mixture. It's a case of 6 plus 6 makes 14. And that's not just that my maths is very bad, as someone knows. 6 plus 6 is 14. And I think this is really important. So I think I would ask everyone to be patient when it comes to dealing with the fact that heads of state and government are kind of not owners of the movement, but leading participants in a way which is unique for any organisation.
If I may come in all the many years that I have been struggling to understand what it is that the Smart Partnership really catches the imagination of the participants. If I can just take it, I think we're getting closer from some of the points that our chairman had raised. The two important points about the smart values and the smart engagement. And I think that is very revealing, because a lot of these complex issues, whether it is at the level of community development, national, regional problems, conflict resolution at the international level, it is because I think the dynamics of approaching the problem in order to find a solution misses out on the essential starting point. Because they don't approach it from like we were. We never consciously identified it, but somehow we pick it up over time, and we collected it in our statement that there is a Smart Partners values. I would like to put it in my understanding, in the sense that, as it were, the so-called Smart Partners values that we have identified would be the guidepost, you know, that keeps us within the focus, the narrow road, and the determination. But I must begin by saying that I think most times when people talk about communicating and problem resolution, they always oversimplify the complexity of the problem. They always think the problem is not, it's a simple thing. And from that beginning, they fail to appreciate that the problem they're dealing with is really complex. Complex, essentially, I think, from all the weaknesses of the human being. They can't sort that out. They think this is a simple thing, I will address it because I am technically qualified, and I will focus on it from the technical point of view. I know it best because I have got a better qualification. I have more years in this subject, or I am the leading nation in this field, and therefore, I talk down to you.
Yeah.
But having said that, then the Smart Partners engagement, that is the magic. I think it is magic because the Smart Partnership engagement that we deal in, or that we practice, is something that is cumulative. It is the whole thing about the regular meetings, our think tanking,
Webcasts,
our dialogues and all that. But what are the boundaries within which we operate? The boundary, subconsciously or consciously, we throw away this thing about big brother, small brother. You know, we don't have that hangover. We are not prescriptive. We take you as an equal. We say the presentation is in the context that, look, we walked that road.
Yeah.
These are the mistakes we made. This is how we approach it, and somewhere along the line, something came together.
Yeah.
Now that is a dynamic process which has to be reinforced over and over repeated gatherings. And I think that is the best definition of the core elements of the smart partnership philosophy.
Engagement and engagement.
The dynamic process, the organic part, the habit forming part.
Let me put it another way. There are at least two aspects of the book complexity. One is the subject itself. Yeah, global warming or sustainability is a very, very complex issue. But there is the complexity within the people who are engaged in that. Yeah, so there are two very, very distinct sort of sets of complexity. The more complex it is, the longer the more continuous this smart engagement has got to be.
Yes.
It is the smart,
Correct.
smart constructive engagement.
Yeah.
Because
That is, if I may put it, the blood, sweat and tears
yes,
part.
because the
And
more
that is where
complex
we are
it
at the
is,
moment.
the longer it takes even just to understand that. Now I have used your 10 component of smart partnership as a checklist to see to look at national project. Suppose we say we want to build a national car, and then you look at what is the objective of the national car and who are the players in the national car, and we check that against longevity or the 10th element, and you can see the more score you have within there, the bigger the chances of success you are going to get. But if you cannot take many, you don't expect that to happen. So we have used that as a kind of a framework to check whether the relationship between people engaged in a particular thing have got the 10 element of the smart partnership.
But it's not first time when we were reminded about this. If you remember a number of years ago, it was Tun, I suppose, if I remember correctly, when we sought, they were talking among fellows, that were it to be a smart partnership kind of assessor, advisors or something present on the boards of big corporations or on the cabinet secretary or whatever it is, committee, then there will be an ongoing, built-in kind of assessment against this, because if you remember we looked at the integrity in Malaysia, so that was the nearest, but it didn't quite had that kind of depth of and dynamism yet. It was single.
Our colleague Ashok from India put it very well
Yeah.
when we were discussing this, and in relation to what Omar has absolutely rightly said, you have to get the topic properly understood and the process of dealing with the matter properly understood. And Ashok put it very simply. He said, we're meeting here, we give ourselves the confidence to move outward, take a risk, because of the atmosphere we create. So it's natural to be scared in the face of uncertainty. But part of the smart process is actually being confident as you approach it. This is not a rationale for being stupid, but it's a rationale for saying we can give each other confidence to move forward. It's something about the need for care and courage combined. Or was someone, rather European example, when someone said that the Duke of Wellington won the Battle of Waterloo on the playing fields of Eton. But this is that's an oversimplification education, but something of that. Just wanted to make a further point which illustrates the way the world has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in the United Kingdom, but
It's still
the great
united.
majority of people in Scotland, in this so-called well-controlled country, say they don't want to be, or at least they voted for a party whose platform is to leave the United Kingdom. I'm not going as far as saying the majority want to
Yeah.
leave, but I'm just saying, who would have guessed this as an example of
Critic-
human conduct and preference even 5 years ago? So, you know, we are very silly if we think that we know very much about how people will behave in the future. And again, I did mention this other example, Omar was warned us of this, the so-called Arab Spring, you know, it sprang a trap on itself. So actually, you know, where are we, apart from Tunisia, where are we better off? No.
I mean, Cyprus is part of Commonwealth and also part of European Union,
Yes, of the
and not
European
very
Union.
far from Greece.
It's part
So-
of the Middle East as well.
Oh, Turkey.
And it is going to start the negotiations for a new Cyprus. So tomorrow is going to be different than what it was yesterday. And I want to take opportunity from this. The Smart Partnership has issue or key theme has been so well developed by Omar, by Andrew and Chuk. I want this Smart Partnership as an approach, a methodology, as a culture. I want to link it up with what we have there, future directions. Now, when we talk about future directions, we could look into the past and gain experience to prepare for the future. Or we look into the future because tomorrow is going to be very different from yesterday. So looking back is not very helpful in determining our future directions. Let's try and see what is tomorrow and then adjust our activities for the tomorrow. And one example is the evolution of species. New species came out, not because it was an evolution from yesterday, but because tomorrow was different, and they had to adjust to tomorrow. So let's look, and the dialogues that we have, they were about some themes that until now, perhaps they were important. Perhaps tomorrow, in the next 10 years, is Africa and Asia and the Mediterranean and other countries may be facing an entirely different future. And for sure, Cyprus in the future is going to be very different to what it has been the last 40 years.
Somebody say the future is not what it used to be.
Very, very clever, very clever.
But it seems like that 2016 in Botswana,
Yes.
which is
Which is just a few
tomorrow,
months ago.
which
yes.
is tomorrow
Yeah.
according to him. What do you think? Is that a kind of a deadline? Then
Well, in
it-
terms of national vision, you can't
Council.
talk about a deadline. So it is important to look at the vision as very
Not
long term. Yes. And,
That's why when I look at Botswana or somewhere, the new vision, you don't have a new vision.
exactly.
A vision is a vision, but first stage, second phase, third phase.
Not
Yes,
that.
yes,
But it's not the first vision, second
exactly.
vision.
Yes.
You cannot have double vision for
Exactly.
Triple vision.
Yeah, you can have, but you
You can have
you hit the
double
wall.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, so
Literally hit the wall.
I suppose the smart engagement, smart values are going to continue to be the
Sure.
the base of the future direction or new directions. And if we look at tomorrow, I've been kind of somehow coming from the forecasting, and I shouldn't tell you this, but background. And you always look at tomorrow in relation to what's happening today. And while there is a world future society and futurology of all kinds and all sorts of methods or approaches, that is systems approach or cybernetic approach or whatever else it is, the only thing that matters actually is a realization of what's happening today. And that in itself gives you insights, which are based on insights from the past, but also give you a feel for what you hope to happen tomorrow. That's all what is about forecasting. It is not about looking in 2020. It's about today, actually. And the today tells you a hope of where you want to be next. So that smart engagement of today through dialogues for any vision that we are encouraging is terribly important.
I have to give you President Roosevelt's last words. The only limitation on our hopes for tomorrow is our doubts of today.
Now, on this kind of line, I suppose we're very kind of proud that at the Smart Partners Hub in the last 6 years, but particularly in the last 2 years, and particularly in the last 2 weeks, we've been more and more able to, or trying to, have as much as possible smart communication. And we thank very much to the smart communication team in the hub that they are able to live and real time to try to connect all of us, and also to give this hybrid type of communication. So it's not just reading, there are links and webcasts and websites and talk and from all over the world that we put people in touch with. So
Part of the people outside should know that one of them is out
we say very much without saying thank you to him, but he's passionate about combining both the ability of whatever technology is required, but with understanding
He
the
has the
process.
feel for, emotional feel for what it is.
Finally, I would recommend that most of the CPTM Smart Partners countries engaged must have a Joseph, must have a smart communication, must have someone who understands and is part of the process, and by the way of that, brings in whatever digital kind of developments are happening. Otherwise, we
And
can't.
an illustration of Omar's point, that you not only need to understand the principle of communication,
Yes.
you need the right people, persons, who understand
Part of
what they're communicating.
the
So it makes the
communication.
point.
Yes. So we're trying to probably continue our discussion on future dimensions, particularly on the dimension of digitization of economy, and which is kind of undefined in most of the international institutions, national for the moment. So hopefully an expert group will be put together to try to define in our smart engagement those dimensions that we will also try to contribute as a new initiative. So that's one thing that we need to announce for sure that it will start. So thank you very much on a very late afternoon, and probably late evening or late almost lunch, wherever you are. And
Midnight in Malaysia.
late night or early morning in Malaysia, but this live webcast, those who were able to participate by sending emails or otherwise, do please reflect and try to engage. Smart engagement is the name of our movement in which you are part of it. So weekend is coming, so a lot of reflection to take place. It will take place at the hub. You can send SMS or call at my mobile, and we will be here and will take on board any of the things that you are going to bring in.
There's a feedback from Smita.
So there is one.
Yes.
Okay.
She's-
Very good. Very good.
Smita.
Very
Where
good.
is she?
Excellent.
Where is she?
Excellent.
She's watching from
Okay.
work.
Very good. Anyway, so with this, I suppose we will need to have a glass of cold water because it's very hard to
I prefer cold wine.
cold wine.
Or
So
cold
thank
wine.
you very much, and I suppose I'm a super slave driver if I continue.
Thank
So
you.
I-
Thank you very
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.